Cześć, witam Cię w moim podcaście. To jest Champions Way, audycja o psychologii sportu i aspektach, które kształtują psychikę, nie tylko w sporcie, ale również w życiu. To jest odcinek 167, nieco inny. Moją gościnią jest Daria Albers. Na razie nagrywam ten wstęp po polsku. Cały odcinek jest w języku angielskim, ponieważ to jest pierwszy język mojej dzisiejszej gościni i zdecydowaliśmy się oboje na to, żeby wycisnąć maksa z tego, kim faktycznie jest Daria, jakie serce wkłada w to, co robi, to, o czym mówi i jak ważne jest to, aby mogła nagrać ten odcinek w swoim pierwszym języku. Więc mam nadzieję, że zostaniesz, posłuchasz. Niestety mam również złą wiadomość. To jest jeden z 2 odcinków, które nagraliśmy. Nagraliśmy tylko jeden, ponieważ był on bardzo długi, natomiast niestety wystąpiły po mojej stronie problemy techniczne i mój mikrofon z jakiegoś powodu nie zadziałał i nagrało się, ten cały odcinek nagrał się z audio komputera, czyli będzie to dosyć słaba jakość nagrania w porównaniu do tych, które słuchasz na co dzień, no przede wszystkim nawet do tej, którą słyszysz teraz. Natomiast wydaje mi się, że jakość odcinka jest dalej zachowana, jest to świetny odcinek i ja jestem przekonany, że podzieliliśmy się ważnymi informacjami dotyczącymi zdrowia psychicznego, ponieważ jesteśmy w miesiącu promującym zdrowie psychiczne. Październik, 10 października to Światowy Dzień Zdrowia Psychicznego, dlatego uważam, że dalej jesteś w stanie wyciągnąć z tego odcinka dużo wiedzy. Trwa on prawie 2 godziny. Jeżeli zostaniesz przez te całe 2 godziny, no to mam nadzieję, że wybaczysz mi te problemy, które miałem z audio. W drugim odcinku, który będziemy nagrywali, który będzie opublikowany pod koniec października, na pewno już ten błąd i te problemy techniczne nie powtórzą się. Więc mogę tylko powiedzieć, przepraszam, błędy się zdarzają, techniczne, jakby to powiedzieć, już teraz w myśleniu po angielsku, ale techniczne problemy również się zdarzają, ale dalej uważam, że ten odcinek był na tyle wartościowy, że chcę go wyprodukować. Jesteśmy umówieni za 2 tygodnie na kolejne nagranie, teraz już za tydzień, kiedy ty słuchasz tego odcinka i obiecuję, że jakość po mojej stronie będzie na pewno dużo lepsza podczas kolejnego nagrania. Być może w przyszłości po prostu nagramy ten odcinek nie online, a na żywo, bo uważam, że przy takich odcinkach warto spotkać się, porozmawiać, natomiast teraz mamy nagrane 2 odcinki, zaplanowane 2 odcinki, jeden nagrany, drugi zaplanowany online, więc jeszcze raz, mam nadzieję, że ten odcinek będzie dobry jakościowo. Niestety audio nie będzie tutaj takie dobre jak zawsze. Mimo wszystko zapraszam Cię do tego odcinka już teraz. Moją gościnią jest Daria Albers.
Okay, so 167, that's the number of today's episode, and the guest will be Daria Albers, who will tell us in a second who that person is. So who is Daria Albers? That's where we start.
First, thank you for having me on your show. That's a lot of shows you've done. I didn't know that. That's a lot of good conversations.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And thank you actually for letting me do a podcast in a more comfortable language for me in English instead of Polish. People know that I'm kind of fluent in Polish, but it's way worse than my German and my English. So thank you very much for this.
Of course, your comfort is the first place, as I told you, the first conversation we've had.
Yeah.
And I hope my audience will appreciate that, because if they want to see, that's my idea, if they want to see a full 100% Daria, that's the way we have to do it.
It's true. We talked about that, right? It's because I speak every day in those 3 languages, Polish, English, and German. And it's such a different everybody who speaks 2 or 3 of those languages says it's so different when I speak English. So I appreciate that, because in Polish, I always have to translate still and find the right words. And I don't know a lot of words still, especially when it comes to psychology and mental performance related. I don't know all the words. So yeah, thank you.
Let's get into that. Who's Daria Albers?
Who's Daria Albers? Honestly, I think I am a coach. I'm a coach by heart. This is what I do. I bring the best out in people. I live MMA, obviously. I'm my whole life in MMA and in martial arts. yeah, I'm a coach who has, that's what I usually say, right? That in the first line, I'm a coach who also happened to have a good education in psychology and physical therapy and mindfulness. And I did a lot of studying and learning in my life. I still do. I love it. But by heart, what is a coach, right? It's someone who discovers and recreates or gets the best out, right, in people and puts them into the best potential. And I think that's who Daria Albers is.
Great. We just had a little chat about dividing the two very important aspects of our identity, as you said, because we in sports, and I know you do that too. We say that you're not what you do. So the person who you are is not what the role is that you play. So when you work with, let's say, we just spoke about Mateusz Gamrot, right? The UFC fighter, and Mateusz Gamrot is a human being, right? You're a human being. I'm a human being, but the role that we play in our lives are very different. So how do you kind of tap into that idea of working with people, working with yourself, right? In the first place, and saying, you always have to remember who you are, and it doesn't always equal what you do.
I think, the key for me is I speak a lot about authenticity. And I think that me, in my role as a coach, I'm very close to who I am really as a person. And this is one thing what is very important for me. Some people agree, some, of course, disagree with that, if it's good or bad. But for me, it works the best that, with me, it's like this. What you see is what you get. Like, you had a little bit of talks to me. I'm the same person. If we talked back then or here on the podcast, off the podcast, on the map or off the mat, usually, of course, you have to be a little bit more balanced. Sometimes you have to be a little bit more hard as a leader. Of course, I'm a coach, right? Sometimes I have to be just a tough coach to them, but it's still part of me. Like I'm so into sport for my whole life. I'm a martial artist, and from every cell of my body, I'm a martial artist, and that's a way of life. So that's why my role as a coach and me as a private person is very, very similar. And I think that's the key to success. Like in my eyes, that's the key to success, because I have a purpose, I have a meaning in my life, and that is to unleash the potential in people. And I do that on 12 hours a day. That's why I work a lot. But that's why I can work a lot. And that's why I travel the world constantly, because my profession or what I'm doing is absolutely my purpose and my meaning. And it is something that of course you do it for other people, but you do it also for yourself. And when that gets close together, I think when you step really authentic into those two, like the real you, and then let's say you roll when they're very close, then I think that's when you can actually also move big mountains, and you can withstand a lot of stress and pressure much better.
Yeah, when you said the word artist, it kind of tells me about, if you want to live your mission every day, you have to be an artist in everything you do. As you said, you're a martial artist, and the word artist for me is a part of your identity. It's kind of hard to decouple, the things, because of course, I'm going to ask you in a second about balance and contrast, because I love those two, and I'll tell you why it's the idea that comes in my head. But you don't have to lose your identity, when you turn off, let's say, from work, because it's kind of who you are. Like it's what made you as good as you are, because the identity. So you don't have to play a role. You just who you are, as you said, in the podcast and on the mat, at home with your dog, right? Yeah. When you go abroad, when you travel. Yeah. And of course, you said it before, sometimes we lose a little bit of ourselves or of our natural selves when we speak other languages. And that's normal, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Because we have to focus more on what we say. We have to focus more on how we put the words together, right? To give the full us, right? And sometimes it's not so difficult, and I get it, right? But I also think that living your mission have to couple with, the identity of being artist and everything you do. But it doesn't mean that you never turn off. Right? There are moments, and this is what I want to ask you, because we're in the mental health month, right? We're just talking about, right? October 10th is the World Mental Health Day, and obviously we want to, and this is also our mission. That's why I wanted to start this month, because this episode is coming out on the first Wednesday of October, and that's how I wanted to start. The raising awareness. That's the good word. Raising awareness about mental health, right? But I think mental health is also about being able to turn off. So that would be my question, following up that long speech that I just gave. And how do you turn off, and how you balance your mental health, right? And what do you think about those two, balance and contrast, in your life?
I will get to this, but I think also how you could see that, like when what you do, it's so interesting, because my mentors all the time tell me, you're such an artist, and you're just an artist in MMA. And that's why I don't want to deal with anything beside my art. And that might be a little bit of a problem sometimes. I'm fully immersed in the sport and what I'm doing in the striking coaching, but also in the mental performance coaching. I'm fully with them in every fight. And of course, I lose myself in it also. So I sometimes don't pay attention to other very important things outside my job. That's how it is, right? But that's honestly, if you want to be the best in the world in something, that's just how it is. There will be moments that you lose yourself, right? There will be moments you're fully immersed in that art, right? That's when you create things, right? That's when creativity goes up. Also, when you catch the flow, right? That is something, and I have huge passion about what I'm doing. So now, since it is my meaning and my purpose, like going to fights, training them on the mat, it doesn't cost me actually so much energy. So I don't have, even because I love it, also psychology, right? I read constantly. Like I'm usually on the mat, or I read, or I walk my dogs. That's all I do. I don't go out. I have a very, very, very structured life, and I love it. I love it. I love to meditate. I love to read. I love doing my ice baths, right? Of course, my training, because I still train. I'm still training with the guys, even when I'm not fighting anymore. Because I want to do everything they do, because that's the kind of coach I am. And because I love it so much, that doesn't make me tired. I can coach and be there and be on the mat 10 hours a day, because it's my hobby, right? My hobby, my passion is my profession. That's good. But what is tough, and this is not just my job, and I think that's what the most people struggles, it's the inner narrative, the inner story, right? Is how our attention gets out of control, right? What happens in our mind. It's not what we do on the outer world so much, especially when you're very passionate and you have a purpose in what you're doing. It is the stories, it's the content of your mind, right? The nature of the mind, that is, the mind, has a kind of a little bit of a negativity bias, right? Likes to attach to all the negative things, likes to find the flaws, right? Constantly talking 24/7, right? People are sometimes not aware of this. You can't stop the stream of consciousness, right? The content of the mind is just constantly coming, brain and mind producing those thoughts, emotions, all the things, all those stories, the mini movies in our mind, right? And that's the problem, right? So it's not actually what you do, because a lot of people, like, of course, if you scroll on social media constantly, if you never immerse yourself in a really deep talk, right? When you lose the skill of good listening, of participating, being really present in a situation, of course, it's not good and on the outer world. And I'm not saying it's right. Let's say this, but most of our issues, why we get tired, why we have burnout, why we get stressed, right? It's because we don't deal with the content of our mind very well. We create stories and we participate in all of those stories, right? So it can be like, how do I deal with this, right? It can be contrast, that you redirect your attention when sometimes there's so much in your mind. You redirect your attention, you go on a walk, you do something that is very pleasant, or some completely different sport, something completely new, right? Yeah. Novelty immediately switches. Or ice baths, right? When you sit in an ice cold bath for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, you can't really go into the story of your mind so much. Usually it's a story about how cold it is, right? But that's it. And things like that, right? So you can create contrast, of course, right? And you should. But then most of the times and most of the people is like how to deal better with the content of your mind, how to step out of participating into the observer perspective, right? Meta awareness. How to really that's what we do in psychology and mental skill training. We teach people to deal better with their content of the mind, not stopping it. It will, after a while, of course, we sometimes say like, you can't change the content of your mind, while long-term wise, you can. Short-term wise, not so much, right?
Yeah.
First, you need to change the relationship, right? To change the relationship to the stories, relationship, understand the narrative, where it comes from, and so on. But after a while, right, when you control your attention, when you're really present, and when you redirect your attention, when you understand what is the narrative, why and where those voices come from, then of course the content will change too. But that's more long-term effects, right, of working with the mind. So it was a long answer to what you said, but that's how I deal with it.
Yeah, but I love it. I love that you started from saying how. This is one of the sayings that my friend psychologist. He's not a sports psychologist. He works in a completely different field. But he has this saying that we are the stories that we tell ourselves.
Yeah.
Which makes us in control of tell the right stories.
Yes.
And being in control of telling good stories.
Yes.
And if this is what defines us, or this is how we can create the identity, and as you're saying, keep focus, keep awareness, and I completely agree and totally here with you that we need to invest ourselves in the things that are our passion, our I would say, just simply give us joy, something that give us joy and makes us. And of course, not every day is perfect, and not every single day and every single thing during the day will go directly as we want to and perfect. As you said, you can structure your day in a perfect manner, but there's always something that will come up. There's always a day when you wake up and feel good.
And I always look, this is how I approach life. Of course, not on a daily basis, because I have really bad days too, like everybody else, right? And or maybe not bad days, but bad moments, a few hours a day.
Exactly.
But because we narrow, right? We narrow constantly our perspective. Our mind fixates so much on certain things sometimes that you're like, what the heck is happening? Like, why is this one little thing making me so tense and so rigid? Right? You have to constantly open your perspective. So now that's why I love reading philosophy, because look, when you, and that's how I always come back to it. Like when I get really stressed or anxious about something or really tense, I can feel it. I'm in resistance to life. I step out of it and I'm realizing, look, we're born and we die. Nobody knows where we come from. Nobody knows where we will go to. Right? We are here in this world. There's no real meaning of being here in the world other than the meaning you give it. Right? Yeah. You give yourself the meaning. Now, next step, right? So that's already like, what's a crazy story, right? You're born into a body, right? With this brain, with this mind, and this kind of culture, right? This is already like, it's more actually almost like curious than and crazy than scary if you start really treating it like this, right? And then next thing is, we socialized from the beginning. We programmed from the beginning by the culture, by our parents, by everybody who was part of our socializing process, right? So now, look, everything we do, the clothes we wear, how we talk, that we drink our coffee in the morning, everything is basically, it's a program, right? Someone said we should drink coffee in the morning. And in the past, my mom always tells me when she was little, toast peanut butter and jelly, because she grew up in New Zealand, right? Yeah. Very British. And stuff like that. Like we talk about the habits, and everything is a habit. Everything is something someone thought that we have an 8-hour workday, right? It's not a natural law, right? We think, that's how things are. No, but when you start questioning it, when you step out and observe it, and you see, and you really are a little bit more neutral to how your day unfolds. You're stepping out, and you see it with different glasses, with a different perspective. It makes it so much easier, right? It makes life so much easier. But
you don't have to attach to every single thought that you have that comes through your head.
To every single thought, conversation. Sometimes we are very eloquent and super smart. Sometimes we talk so much stupid things, right? Yeah. And I approach life like this. And this is something, was very, very interesting. When I came to Poland, I never lived in Poland, right? I came to Poland a few years ago, and I didn't know the culture. I was like, my mom grew up in New Zealand. She's Polish, but she grew up in New Zealand. My dad was German. They traveled the world, right? I lived in 5 different countries, all over the world. Usually open. I'm a very open person. I love people. I'm extremely curious about people. And then I came to Poland with this open mindset, right? And I wanted to share my knowledge, my experience. I wanted to know also the knowledge, experience of others. I wanted to connect to people. And now they're telling me that, it's so interesting. And there's not just one person, like many people. And also they didn't tell me, obviously, they told other people. They're like, are you sure she's that good? Because she's just so detached from things, right? She seems like she's just like, they thought even a little bit naive, because I have so much passion and joy in what I'm doing. Yeah. They had this perspective of someone like, okay, if you work with the top level guys in the UFC, right, in our sport and MMA, when you have all the champions, you need to be very serious. You need to take yourself very serious. You need to be like very distant, right, and a little bit arrogant. And that's everything I'm not, right? Okay. I go like you see, like I told you, right? What you see is what you get, right? And I treat everybody the same. And for me, it doesn't really make a difference anymore, because I have a lot of really, really top level superstars client. It doesn't make a difference for me if you're a superstar, if you're a top level UFC fighter, or I just treat like, I like to talk to the lady at the grocery store as much as to my fighters. And interesting, right? How people in Poland thought like it's a sign of weakness, right? That you are kind, open, interested, you like communication, you ask a lot of questions. It's treated like in our country, it's treated a bit of a weakness. And that said a lot. I learned a lot about this culture. I had actually to dive a little bit deeper into the Polish history also, which I knew part of the history, of course. But I talked to other psychologists here, and they explained me a lot. Like it's a quite traumatized culture, which you can see by the distrust between people. And. That was actually a very interesting experience for me.
Yeah, it sounds very interesting, especially when you discover something completely different in other cultures, right? Where you live. As you said, you didn't say it today, but you were born in Poland, right? In Gdynia, right?
Yes,
that's what you told
right.
me. Yeah,
that's
first
right.
time. Yeah, so you were born in Poland, but never actually lived. So that had to be a cultural shock, I would even say, right? At the beginning when you moved to the country. I kind of had it probably around like 5 years ago when I fully came back from the United States on the road to coming back to Poland. I lived in Finland for a year and then a few months in Sweden. That's where I was trying to still continue my football career. But when I came back, my mindset was different, right? Because when I left, I was 17, 18 years old. And then when I came back, I was 24, 25, right? So my very early adulthood life was created in the States. And you know what the culture is like in the States. It's very open-minded. Everything is a yes, and everything is go for it, and
you just do it. You just do.
Yeah, just do it. Screw it. Let's do it. Right? Just like see what happens. Right? And every idea is an interesting one. Every idea has a right right to be tested.
To be yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just to be
Go
to be
try it.
and to be exactly tested out, and no one will tell you no, it won't work.
I can see it also in the fighters, a big difference, like how they treat the world. I don't like the word failure already, but right, let's say, because success and failure, right? Failure is part of success, right? It's part of the growth process of evolution. But just this is very interesting for me too. Those are the things I needed to learn. That losing a fight, like immediately, it's failing, right? It's completely the ego destruction. It's the ego death. It's like a real drama. And or also inspiring, or on the mat in general, or in life even, right? To show your vulnerable parts, your weaknesses, which like that's another thing, right? I speak easy about my weaknesses because I have 3 amazing mentors who guide me in all the 3 things I studied. I'm still my mentor. And they know each other also, so I brought them together. I formed that network group also. And they still guide me, they still mentor me. And we worked at that out a lot because I said, I want to be able to speak about my shadows. I mean, you don't see everything in your shadows, so what the things that you already saw, the things you already know about yourself. I have no problems in talking about this. That is what we should do, right? We shouldn't treat everything that we don't like about each other, or what is maybe less likable or less perfect, right? As a failure, as a bad thing. It's just part of you, right? You need to accept it. You need to talk about this, and we need to start talking about that. Because look, we live in I'm not speaking about Poland in general. Like in this, it's all about perfectionism, right? Social media times, like, and in fighting, it's also very, very extremely, right? You cannot lose a round. You cannot lose 1 minute in a round. But sometimes you have to give out a round away. You have to lose even a whole sparring sometimes because you're working on very critical skills, right? You're working through something else. And the other person doesn't have to know always. And outside sparring is the same thing in life. The people, either way, the most people never will know where you come from, what's your story, right? What they don't know. Who knows you really? Maybe the one best friend and your mentor and my mom, right? Who knows me really well, right? Because I talked to her a lot. But people, either way, we have this feeling that people know so much about us. They know nothing. They don't know where we come from, and we should not forget that we don't know about other people, right?
Exactly.
So to accept and show your vulnerabilities, your pain points, right, is super, super important for our culture. To understand, like, when I went to New Zealand and I trained with one of the best MMA teams in the world, right? That is what they've done. They have this warrior culture, a warrior spirit, and they have those, the Maoris, right? It's a tribe culture. So they have all those gatherings when they come together, and they speak about their pains, right? And their poems they recite, right? The music they play, right? There's so much about your pain, your soul pain, your shadows, also the culture, right? The trauma a culture went through or the tribe went through, right? And they learn from it. They take it as strength, right? They work like and it's like you can see it in all the songs and all the poems, right? Everything they do in the Maori dances, right? When you translate, sometimes I post it on my Instagram, right? When you translate the haka, right? It's beautiful and philosophical and deep, and a lot of it is built on the pains of your ancestors, right? The pains the land had to go through, right? And it's everywhere. It's not just New Zealand. It's of course the whole world. Like, and you build on this, right? So your pains make who you are. Your shadow, right? That is what is worth like really bringing up there, looking at and sharing it with other people. Because when we constantly, everything in our culture is built to run away from this, right? To neglect it, to navigate around, run away from this. Everything seems to be so perfect. And that is why people suffer, right? In and outside the sport, of course, right? That's why we suffer. Because we feel we can't, there's no space to acknowledge our pains. There's no space to acknowledge, but also on the other hand, our good things. You know, when I went here in Poland, when I came to Kanał Sportowy, with Maciej Turski, and he told me, it was so funny. He told me, "Oi, Daria, he made very good homework. He knew everything about me, who I work with. Like, really, he was prepared. I was really, really impressed about him. And he said, look, I know what you've done, but I will tell just like a few things, because Polish people don't like if someone is too much in a good light. And I didn't understand that. And I was like, no, come on. This is and it was like this. A lot of people were like, oh, so she's all about herself. Because in Poland, in our culture, like, people don't like so much when you say, yeah, I'm good in something.
Yeah.
But what does it show you? Trauma. If you work with an athlete and you look him into the eyes or her into the eyes and you say, okay, tell me why you're the best. Tell me why you're really, really good. If they hesitate a lot, constantly, right? Then wow, there's some topic to work out.
Yeah.
Right. So, and it's the same for the culture, right? So we live in a culture where it's not well seen if you say to people, this is what I can do. I'm good at this, right? I can do this and I want to share it, because it's not from the ego. It's just like from the pure joy. An artist, right?
Yeah.
An artist presents the art, and of course you're like, oh my God, hopefully people will like it or not, right? But you like, you're emotionally invested in it. You bring that out, and you get other people on the board who say, okay, you can do this, I can do this, let's do together. Maybe together we can do something bigger. That's usually the fact, right? That together we create something bigger.
That's the win-win mentality.
Yeah.
It's not. It's usually not. I win and I hope you lose. It's what we can bring out from this experience together, like me and you. But I think that the root is always in the history, as you said, right? And for us, it's even. I wouldn't even speak about the wars that we had in Poland, right? But even the times that my mom remembers. I'm not even speaking of my grandparents, but my mom remembers the communism in Poland, right? The times, it's a myth for my millennial generation, right? Because when I was born, we already had a freedom of pretty much everything, right? I was born in 1992, so I've never experienced that cultural change. This is what I grew up with, right? So when my mom tells me the stories about the very famous kartki, right, which is like buying things with the little pieces of paper where you had your limits for bread, for ham, for milk, because there was not enough storage in the shops, right? And people had money, but there wasn't any supply of things, right? And that must have been difficult. And people always fought for everything. They pretty much, they accused each other for having to know people around, and that's why they get something, and I don't get because my neighbor gets it and instead of me. And this is only 30 years ago,
yes,
right?
Exactly. That's very little time,
Yeah, so I get it, I understand it, and it's beautiful how you talk about all the different stuff that influences how we are and what we feel. And my idea is, and kind of like my question that creates that have been creating my head is connected to managing your mental health, right? Because when we think of people around, there are people that will never change, right? And let's not try to do this, right? We're not gonna change every person on the planet. We can create our own worlds, right, of people that we want to accept in them. Because as you were saying, what people do in social media is sometimes insane, or the comments that that you were even talking about in Kanał Sportowy, right? That when you talk too much about yourself, or maybe about how good you are, it might be delivered as a egocentric message, right? Which is obviously wrong, but that's how people think. And it's, for me, it always comes from jealousy and from thinking like that 30 years ago we thought she has, and that's why I don't. And it's very dangerous spot. But even the very how do I say it? Like the very like the perfectionism and being like super correct in social media and just online in general. And in Polish, I would say poprawność. It's like the 100. You have to be 100% correct in everything, right? So in one of my reel, I used a word normalny mężczyzna,
Okay.
a normal man,
Yeah.
and what I meant is how when we look in the Polish dictionary, right? Normal means typical.
Yeah,
Like
typical average.
no different than other human being, right? And people would say, should psychologists use a word normal in describing himself?
Right.
Because what is not normal mean then?
Yes.
You know, and we look for all this correctness, right?
But look what happens in the States now. I mean, you don't know if you should say she, her, hers, him.
Yeah,
like,
because you're going to be sued.
Correct. Right, and then that's that's the other side, right? I mean, that's in all cultures right now. It's going on, and but that's what I mean. I'm a big advocate to teach people. Tell me what you're really, really good at, but also tell me where you suck. Absolutely, because I will tell you. You ask me, I can tell you immediately what it is, right? And I have no problem with this anymore.
Yeah.
Right, and this is something we need to learn. This is something we need to cultivate, right? Stop judging, right? Because, I mean, everything starts with ourselves, right? We're constantly judging ourselves, constantly judging everything is a performance, right? And that's why we get neurotic. That's why we get so tense and crazy. We judge, and we judge ourselves, so we judge, obviously, everybody else. I like this, I don't like this. I constantly, I trust, I don't trust. This person is like this person's like that. Nobody cares really, right? Like, and that is something you have to cultivate it in yourself. Like, that's, for example, one of my practices I work a lot in, like non-judgmental awareness.
Yeah,
I am with, and I sit in my meditation and I observe my thoughts and my emotions without judgment. It's an absolute crucial practice, right? You have to start with yourself, then with others, and then once you get into when you're more neutral, more curious, right? With in mindfulness, there's a beautiful word like beginner's mind to work, right? With a beginner's mind, embrace life, go through life with a beginner's mind, where as if you see it for the first time ever, right? As if you have no experiences with that, no baggage, no loading. And that in relationships with people or in our life in general, it's not always easy, right? Because we have all the memories, right? Which half of it is stored false memories, right? We know that. Made up stories, false memories. And every time when we recapitulate the story, we add a little bit more of false things. So, you can, you don't want to go down the rabbit hole, but it's interesting for sure.
And then coming back to connecting dots with what I was saying, because I want to tap it that more, but with a specific route, because I'm very curious of how you managed, and I think it's since your identity is so in tune with your artist mind and everything, right? So I know that when I ask you, I know that this is what you teach others, right? So I'm automatically asking that question you, but I know this is also would be an advice for anybody that you would work with, or in general, right? Like every person that you would meet. So how do you manage, or how have you managed, I should say, not kind of go with that cultural trauma and all those negativity that you've met in the past years, right? Like, what has helped you, and what could be, a good start for someone who is, I would say, a good word that comes to my head is maybe during this conversation, someone is getting awakening, right? And saying like, wow, I lived in Matrix for years, and now this is, maybe a perfect time to change something in my life, maybe start to manage my mental health. And how have you managed to stay, with your values, stay yourself, and also help Polish people, right? Polish athletes grow with the mentality of, let's say this is just an example, right? Failure is not your identity, or failure doesn't mean that you are a failure,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
This is a lesson that you can
Yes.
come up and everything, right? So I'm wandering around, right? I'm circling around. I hope that question and all the thoughts that I have in my head are clear to you.
Yes, I think, I hope. You never know, right? You never know how my mind interprets what you say. There's a whole story unfolding right now. I just went, when you were talking, I went to all the places because I visualized everything you just said.
Yeah.
I just went, I literally traveled to the world, because when you said, like, how do I manage my mental health? There are a few different things. Let me say this. How do you manage your sanity? I would say that. How do you actually, because it's not even about mental health, how do you stay sane in such a crazy world we live in? Right? Beautiful, amazing world. But how do you stay really sane? And, when I started with my career, when I was a professional fighter, a lot of people told me, you don't have it. I've done it. Then I wanted to be, I said, okay, I'll be a striking coach for the best guys in the world. They're like, yeah, you should start with teaching women's kickboxing fitness class. And I'm like, no. And I did it, right? Then I said, I'll be one of the top level mental performance coaches because our sport needs it. And they said, in MMA, good luck, especially as a woman. I've done it, right? So, and you know how I've done it? I connect to people. And that is really, like, to stay sane, like, you need to overcome your fears. I went traveling literally around the world, and I'm not saying you should be, when you can connect. And I'm still, I still do that. I write coaches, which I find really interesting, and I ask them if they want to connect over Zoom, and they do it. Like, you would really be surprised how many, not just coaches, how many people who you think, like, okay, they're quite known, they are willing to connect. And they're willing actually to exchange, like, some knowledge, some experience. I like to connect to people, and that's what I do. So when I was an upcoming coach, right, I traveled to the best teams in the world, and they were like, oh, she's a bit weird, this lady, this girl actually from Germany. She just came in and she's just sticking around. And I asked all of those coaches, teach me everything you know. Teach me everything, what you like, why, what is it like, what is your philosophy of coaching? And which is really interesting, right? MMA is a small sport. And now it's like this, that more and more and more, my fighters are fighting their fighters, and they're like, little Daria. They're like, little Daria, I'm coming for you guys. And we laugh, right? Because because of this, I built relationships that are 10, 15, 20 years old. They know me as a young fighter, right? And they're still coaches. The top level coaches are there forever, right? Ray Longo is a coach from Long Island. Henry Hove, a coach from Florida. Like, the top level coaches in MMA, they're there forever. Like me, I'm there for a long time in the sport. And so connection, right? Connection and building your tribes. And look what you just said earlier also. Building your group of people. We way too often, we are waiting for people to connect to us, especially when we don't trust people so much, especially when we don't trust ourselves so much, when we're so involved in our own little life, which is less important than we think, right? Yeah. So, but we get so involved because we feel so important in our own life, right? I'm laughing a little bit because, this is literally how I talk to myself also. You get the real me, right? But so you need to get out and proactively connect. And so the questions don't have expectations, because I connect to people, and at the beginning of my career, I had a lot of expectation to get equally something back, which not always is like this. Right? But I grew through all of those connections. I grew even seeing how they do things I did not like. I did not take on, like, even this, right? To see what people do maybe in your eyes, not the way you would do it, right? Even through this you grow. And you find your tribe. And that actually happened in Poland. I always talk to my guys who are very close to me, because I have a very, very tight group of fighters and coaches I'm working here with. There are absolutely some of the best people I've met in my life, right? And I'm like, I needed to find all of you guys. None of them knew each other, and now they work all together. We do little camps together. We work, and we're building our tribes. Our boys spar with each other. The coaches talk each other. We go to the summer camp together, winter camp, into the mountains. Look, I work with so many different fighters here in Poland from teams that not necessarily even so well get along together. But when they come to my camp, all good, because they're all part of my little group I created, right? I'm their coach, and it's beautiful to see how they open up with each other, how they build friendships, right? Who are so much more powerful, and that keeps you sane, right? That is one thing we underestimate. Creating your tribe, right? And that maybe it's a little bit because my mom grew up in New Zealand, also with the Maoris, right? She taught me a lot in the past about the tribe culture. And my parents traveled many times to all kinds of African countries, and I think that's what I do. I'm building my tribe, or those guys with me. We're building our tribe, and
beautiful.
That is so important for well-being, right? To come back to your tribe where you can be absolutely you. And this is coming back to me as a coach also, which not everybody will understand. I show them my weaknesses, because either way, when you're in a tribe, believe me, they can see 100 meters before I'm even reaching the point. They can smell and see that I'm not in good, right? That I'm not in a good space. Yeah. So I'm not even, I tell it. I come out, I'm like, I'm in really shitty mood today. Like, so you better train well today, because honestly, guys, I'm emotional and I've been not very nice. And they're all like soldiers. They're like, okay, coach, no problem. We talk about all the other stuff later, right? I don't it's all about, again, coming back to authenticity. And it works because we create bonds that when you really want to move a mountain, when you want to go to the UFC, right? When you fight the best people in the world, like tough guys, you need to have a very tight bond with your coach, also with your mental performance coach.
Yeah.
Right. That is super important. So to keep sanity, definitely this.
And I see. Can I comment here?
No, of course.
I see. That was great, because the video that just came to my head is watching the documentary called Stutz. Maybe you've heard of it. Yeah, it's an American psychiatrist, Phil Stutz, who's recorded the documentary on Netflix with the actor Jonah Hill.
Okay.
And he actually created and directed that movie because he wanted to show his psychiatrist's tools. So the world can see it and can use it, because it was so powerful. And one of the things that he was talking about was actually two things, right? Because he started with saying how we have three. See, I've watched it, I think, 3 times in English, and then so many times in Polish that I forgot the exact word in English. And I started with English, and now I forgot. But pretty much it was, I would say in Polish, and for sure will come back to me. 3 nieuchronne w życiu. So it was 3 things that we cannot avoid ever, right? Okay. So let's do a free translation. 3 things that we cannot avoid, and it's pain, uncertainty, and constant work, right? And this is what, when I add your part, which is to keep sanity, you have to develop, and I use this analogy of you have to develop and build a bond with 3 different types of relationships: relationship with your body, relationship with yourself on the mental level, and relationship with others.
Yes.
And on the fundamentally, on the basic level,
so good.
This is it.
Yes.
Like this, these are the fillers of what you said. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. This is so great and on point. Because also leading further, because so there's like building community. That's one practice for keeping sanity. But then exactly that, working on yourself, mental and physical resilience. Right? I look in martial arts, and this is so interesting about my education. That's why I sometimes think like there might be a real higher power has a hand over me. Because look, in martial arts, you say mind, body, spirit. Yeah. Right? To be a whole being, you need to take care about your mind, about your body, and your spirit. So at the beginning of my career, everything was about the body. So I studied physical therapy. Then I realized, psychology is very, very important, right? The mindset. Okay, I went back, studied psychology. And then later in my career, that was already when I stopped fighting, I thought like, wow, there's a lot about the soul, about like this lot of spirituality, meaning, purpose, right?
Yeah.
In that kind of meaning. And I went back to study contemplative practices, right? Zen meditation, mindfulness-based cognitive therapy, right? That's why I have so much different educations, because that I went on a road of a martial artist where you think everything is physical. Then a lot of it's mental. And then you realize when you get a bit older in your life and you had some more failures and some tougher times, like after my dad died also, there was a bit more seeking for more spiritual, the meaning, the purpose in life. And as a martial artist or in life, that's exactly it, right? You have to take care about mind, body, and spirit, right? And so one part of my practices, and that's why I'm always talking a lot about mindfulness, is literally mindfulness practice, right?
Yeah.
When you study your attention, you study your mind. That's
right.
That's like your attention, controlling your attention is a superpower, right? Being present, absolutely superpower, right? When you're present in any given moment, that's when if you can talk even about control, what we can control in our life, which is also very relatively.
Yeah.
But right, control, you just get in the present moment. If you want to have any kind of control on your life, you need to be super present in each moment, right? With your senses, with your mind, super aware, super conscious, which of course we cannot be all the time when we go in and out. And sometimes at the end of the day, I'm thinking like, wow, I was a whole day unconscious. Like I've done everything, but I'm this just one part of me that participated. Most of my parts I was in my head, mentally time traveling, mind wandering. And that causes a lot of issues for ourselves. And so working with your mind, really, like how we also started our conversation today, observing your mind instead of participating in it, right? Learning to observe in neutral awareness instead of judging our mind, understanding our narrative, right? Where does it come from? All the voices, different, because they come from somewhere, right? These are not our voices. We took them on. Like that's why mental training and mental skill training is so important, very important. And I spent a lot of time on mindfulness practice, right? Observing my mind, working with it, but then also working on the body. You cannot I just can't. I know that I have colleagues that don't like to train, right? They're psychologists, right? Or even coaches, they don't like to train. I just don't believe that, oh, no, you need to train your body. That's just how it is. You don't have to be a professional athlete, but the body needs to be healthy, right? So there is no mind and body, right? This is one thing, right? The nervous system, autonomic nervous system connects mind and body. This is, because of this, it's a very fluid, like it's really hard to say where does the mind end and where does the body start, right? So it influences. It's always that's what I teach constantly. Of course, that's what we teach, right? Mind to body, body to mind.
Yeah.
Right. And so everything about nervous system regulation, like breathing exercises, but also for the mind, cognitive training, like really training your cognitive skills, ice baths, right? Good training, mobility training, flexibility training, but also fighting, of course, right? I think everybody should fight. And honestly, I think we need to bring martial arts into schools because it's good. It's good to fight. It's empowering, right? For women and for men, for every human being, it's empowering. And you don't have to, of course, look, most of the fighters, most of the people who are empowered, they don't fight on the streets, right? Because they're calm. You know your skills. You won't fall into a victim state as easily when you're mentally, physically, spiritually empowered.
Yeah.
Right. So I think to really keep your mental health as best as you can, keep your sanity in life, build a community, train your mind, train your body. Right. It's a must. It's like brushing the teeth.
Should be. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. It should be. And as you said, it's the two parts of ourselves. That's one. And then I also love the idea of this is also like a very drafty model of looking at what we should be as human beings, but we should manage as best as we can the relationship with ourselves. So the body and the mind, as we said, but also I love, and it also comes from philosophy that we should. I think it's from Marek Aurelius. I think it's from the Stoics, right? So they would say that you have to create yourself to be like a 1.5 man, right? Because when you can give yourself what you need, that's good. But then to be fully yourself or fully a human being, you should have some more for others. So it's not living just for yourself, but also to give back. But you can't give back when your tank has 50% or 40% or even less, right?
Yes.
So it's always managing yourself, but never stop there. So it's like a good comparison that I've heard in the past was people read seven highly effective habits of successful people, whatever that book was, right?
Yeah,
so Stephen Covey, right?
Yes.
It's a classic.
I'm just looking at it from here in my bookshelf.
Exactly. So it's you probably remember some of the habits that were there, but the main part of the book was how to get, let's say, independent, right? How to work very independently and how to manage ourselves. And I feel like people mentally stop there because the rest of the book talks about, okay, now it's the time to give back.
Yes,
now it's the time to synchronize with other people, right?
Yes.
And I think in the world that we're living right now, we're so busy with getting our mental health on the place, managing our problems and our issues, as you were laughing before, right? Like me and my world, right? And I am the most important person. And yeah, that's right. But nobody sees the world as you do.
Contributing, right? Contributing beyond yourself. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely. But it's interesting because yesterday I was talking to someone about that. The thing is, like, that's why self-care is so important, because you will always treat other people how you treat yourself.
Yeah.
You can see when you interact with people how they treat you or someone else, right? You can see what they are inside, right? How much things they had worked out or not, because that's how it is. We see the world how we see ourselves, right? Or how we are ourselves, right? That's how we see the world. And that's why you need to work out things in yourself. If you want to contribute to society, you need to work on yourself. And look what we do. We feel bad, we feel negative, we feel like kind of in tension or in war with the world. What do we do first? We try to control the external world, right?
Yeah.
Towards our needs, to our feelings, right? That's such a habit. That's such an instinct we have. Controlling everyone, everything, every situation, so I feel good, right? How about, like, you work on yourself, right? This is what people don't understand. We have tools and skills, and we can change our states, right? And we have so much more power and agency in what we're doing than it's kind of taught us, right? We are taught to look in the outside world to how to feel better. Right? So that's why you can't contribute to society if you don't work out your own shit. That's just how it is, right? You have to take responsibility, and you have to stand up and stand into the mirror and be like, okay, these are, like, I fucked up here. I'm sorry for the word, right? But this is what I've done, right? I've done this wrong, right? This is why I'm actually full of shit, right? This is what I'm hiding. This is what I'm neglecting my topics. And this is the deep work. And that's why we have coaches, we have mentors, we have, as athletes, our sports psychologists, right? That's our work. Like, as much as I love my guys and I'm fighting, if they can't fight, I'm going to go over the cage or fight. They say, like, they're sometimes like, wow, coach, I swear, when I turn around and I see you, I'm like, wow, she's ready to fight. I better finish the guy, because otherwise she climbs over, right? I lost the topic now because I just saw myself climbing over.
You went to the cage for a second.
Yes. See those emotions we have, but how did I?
Yeah, the external things that we manage. That was like the start of the topic.
So you have to work out your own things, right? That's just how it is, right? Then you can be part of something bigger. Then you can create something beyond yourself. And exactly. About my guys, right? I love them. I do everything for them. But in the same time, I call them out on their shit constantly. And they do that for me too. Speaking about being the coach, right? Because sometimes when I speak on conference to other psychologists, they're like, oh yeah, but you shouldn't identify too much with them. You shouldn't show so much of yourself. In my profession, in what I'm doing, that's exactly what doesn't work. It doesn't work. That's why a lot of the guys I'm working with, they work with other mental performance coaches and sports psychologists in the past. And they're like, I just didn't feel it. Like, you've done in 2 months more than someone else in 3 years. Right. And that's not because lack of knowledge. I can't judge it, right? Because I never was there, right? I can't judge as long as I'm not in the session, I can't judge what someone did. But definitely one factor surely is that I'm on the mat. I'm from the inside. Right, I'm completely dedicated to my athletes. And lately, one of the UFC fighters, right, he fought, and he said that the work was so what he not expected. It's like, you dedicated so much time to me and so much energy that he's like, I'm really, really satisfied with the work, and I could see the change we've done together in such a short time. But so I give everything. And I think that's the connection, right? And that, again, sometimes like this professionalism, the distance, right? Of course, like the negative point about this, when they go down, I go down, right? So when one of them loses, I can feel it. But now you can say it's good or bad, right? Yeah, okay. I have 2-3 days where I feel a little bit lower energy for sure. And I work out and I analyze, but that's life again. That's life. If you're all into something, if you go into a fight, you need to be all in. You win, you lose, okay, every option. Maybe you knock someone out, maybe you get knocked out. You have to, you can't neglect this, right? When you go to war, look, I work with the special operation forces, right? When they go into the mission, everything can happen. You can die, right? You can live, but you can die, and everything what in between, right? Yeah. And it can be a full success, or can be a completely shit show. Right, but and everything in between. And again, coming back to it, like acknowledging all of this, right? Being fully immersed in it, because then, because I had this discussion, not anymore, because my results now. At the beginning, people questioned me, of course, right, 5, 6, 7 years ago. Now they question me a little bit less because of the results I have. So they say, okay, it works your way, and I'm not saying everybody should work like this, but that distance we create always to people it's not very healthy, right? Neutral awareness, okay. But if you're all into your art, if you're all into something, into a relationship, on like, why would you even do something if you're not all in? And that's honestly speaking from psychologist to psychologist. You know how many colleagues I have that are not all into this. They're so tired of this job. And they're like, how do you do this? You work 12 hours a day. Every weekend you travel between continents, not even between countries, continents to the fight. And you don't have a private life really. And I'm like, because that's my passion. I choose. Yeah. My work is my passion, and I go all in. And again, like I said, when they win, you win. When they lose, you lose. Mm-hmm. But that's also mental, like when you have mental resilience and physical resilience, that's what you do. You're going to get punched in the face, you take it, right? All right, not great, but it hurts for a few days, and then you get up and you go back, and you analyze it, and you get back better.
Again, that's one of the things that you can never avoid.
Yeah.
The pain, right? The pain, the physical or the emotional, right? Depending on how much you put yourself out there, right? Sometimes it might be physical, sometimes it's just emotional. Yes. But when you're saying that about being immersed with what you do, I have that picture in my head of a person who's wanting to get engaged, and I'm talking about everything. Just we can even say engage in life, right? Like be fully present, but they don't really want to fall in because it hurts, right? It's you have to take the responsibility that when you go down, let's say with your fighters, right? and I have the same with my clients, right? When they lose, I lose too, right? And maybe there's this, sometimes it's a little more difficult to, let's say I work with someone online, and it's sometimes a little difficult to feel it. But let's say my experience with the national team, when I worked with the U21 volleyball, right? We went to the World Cup, and we're fighting for a medal, but we ended up being fifth in the world, which is still a great spot to be for these young players. But they're used to having medals every single year on the past 3 or 4 years, right? So for them, it's a failure. And being for over 3 months with them in prep camps and play sparrings and go for the World Cup and then Euro qualification, right? You feel it, like you're with them. And again, like one of the sayings that I had in my notes was what do you say when you hear the words "don't get too close to them," right? And I feel like it comes from, I don't want to say stereotypical. Yes, I don't want to say that word. It's not a stereotype, but I would say more. It's how the not modern, but it's how the psychology in Poland evolved. I think very official, very kind of, I would say, distanced, right? Like not getting too close. Detached of the problems of your client and everything. And of course, I mean, you cannot carry the loads of the whole world. I mean, that's the idea. I think that where they're coming from. But we also spoke about it on the phone when we talked for the first time, right? About not getting too close. And I'm somewhere, I'm kind of like tore apart, because my identity is get close with them, be completely honest, show your weakness, be yourself, right? Because that's the way you can tap into their inside, their real problems, and not just a facade, right? But then you have that official voices of maybe that's not good, maybe you shouldn't show that on social media because you're a psychologist, someone can over identify with your problems and everything, and there are different parts of that, and it's also a rabbit hole, so we don't have to go there. But it's just, my head has this picture of someone not wanting to fully dive in, and maybe that's why ending up being taxed, because you always have to balance, like get in, no, get out, okay, and you always you can never like fully rest in the space where you are. You know what I mean?
But this is something I learned about myself, my own practice. So, like for example, you can be also really deeply immersed in something, really participating in it, but you're still grounded. And that's the difference. If you lose yourself, which of course it happened, and like on this weekend on Friday, the fighter I'm most connected with, right? Because he's the least when it comes to, like, he's not in the UFC, he's beginning of his career, but I'm the most connected. I treat him like a little brother. He lost and he really fucked up, right? He really didn't do a good fight, right? And I was really angry at him, because that's right. As a coach, you cannot always. I was angry, again, of course, sometimes you lose yourself in that too, right? I got so angry that I had to leave the locker room, because I told them, I will say things I might regret, but okay, that's at least I'm aware of this, and I left. I run down the hall a little bit, right? And then I came back and I said, we talked the next day about this. I had said what I had to say. But that's the practice I'm engaging in. It's like being grounded. So, for example, I am on a mat and I keep the open awareness. That's why open awareness practice also in mindfulness, where you sit, you close your eyes, and it's like open monitoring of what is, right? A wide perspective of what is. Everything that comes into your mental space, let's say, if it's a word, an image, a little movie, a story, whatever comes in, right? You, from a detached, from a grounded perspective, so really connected to your body, to your breath, right? That's because that's what grounds you in the present moment. It's like an anchor, right? Yeah. We call it mindfulness, right? Finding the anchor. Like when you're really anchored in yourself, and let's say I'm on the mat and there's 20 guys sparring, right? It's hot. It's like some blood splashing sometimes, right? I can be fully immersed, like I can be fully attentive to what is, right? And feeling with them, but I'm not losing my anchor, right? I'm still like a ship in the storm, right?
Okay.
I have my anchor and I always come back. And that's why embodiment practices, mindful movement, body scans, all kinds of practices, or I mean, also my training, right? It's so important for me. So when I see I'm going so much in my mind, because that happens, it's not just on the mat, it happens to all of us, right? When we lose that anchor, we lose that ground, and we go off too much into the emotions, right?
Yeah.
That you shouldn't do, of course not. But you can be absolutely actively participating with your clients, right? Be empathic. And sometimes it's just part of the job that you cannot sleep. It's normal. I lie in my bed and I'm thinking and it's not just because I'm such an empathic person. It's just how the brain works, right? I heard 5 different stories that day, right? And maybe 4 of them were really sad, right? Or really, I have a problem because I don't know how to explain the fight or how to focus better or how to perform better, right? Because that's part, because that if you're passionate about something, you will do it, right? If it takes over your life, not good. But if you're actively participating in everything you do. But coming back to it, like, and I think for you, for me, for everybody in our profession, but also outside of our profession, that's why those practices are so powerful, right?
Mm-hmm.
Presence, awareness, mindfulness, non-reactivity, all of those things we learn, right? To be grounded in our mind and in our body with our nervous system, regulating our own nervous system. Then you can go 12 hours a day. Because speaking about, again, from the beginning, right? You like, when you're internally stable and balanced, and I take a lot care of this, and it's not hours a day, obviously, because when I work 12 hours, sometimes, or most of the days, actually 10, 12 hours sometimes, because I train them on the mat, off the mat, I have my online clients, and then back on the mat, right? So my day sometimes is very long. I keep the balance and I keep still my passion, because I'm doing 15 minutes here, 10 minutes here. I lie on the ground, do some 10 minutes of breathing, right? I close my eyes. I listen to the birds, right? Just tuning into my senses, right? Simple things, right? And immediately stabilizing your attention, stabilizing your nervous system, you're good.
Yeah, it's also the topic of overstimulation, because sometimes it's just the brain can be overstimulated from all the emotions and everything. And as you were talking about getting connected with your nervous system, it's so easy when we think about it, about the mind and body, right? When we have the 2 nervous systems, the sympathetic and parasympathetic, right? And as you said, you've come to manage well and balance well.
Not always.
This is what I'm getting. What did you say? Not always. Yeah. But you've come to most of the time, right? Because it's always the matter of not creating the 100% accuracy, but having the key to open the door. Sometimes the key, as we can connect it to a typical situation at home. Sometimes you can't find the key.
Yeah.
It's there, right? It didn't go anywhere, but sometimes we just can't find it. It's a normal situation, but you have the key, right? You found it, so you found your own anchors. And what I'm getting from what you're saying, and I think I can fully relate with that, is the sympathetic nervous system, the ones who is stressed, going at it, right, and then fighting and everything, right? It can be stimulated only when you find good practices. And as you said, it can be 15 minutes, 10 minutes here and there, nice little walk, maybe a coffee and outside, and as you said, activating your senses, maybe go for a walk, maybe do a little training, and balance it with the parasympathetic, which kind of not tunes down, but turns off, but lowers, right?
Lowers your arousal level, right?
Exactly.
Generation,
And it's almost like like an amplitude on whatever speaker or something, right?
Yes.
If you learn and you find your key to navigate through the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system, which is obviously, it just sounds easy, right? But the way to find it is get in tune in the first place with your body, when you with your mind, right? And I think your wisdom comes from experience, from talking to people, from being very curious and never agreeing on being average, right? And you keep looking and looking and looking, but also accepting the uncertain, right? Pain, the uncertainty that we're talking about, right? Not knowing, right? But I think it's the easiest way to say it, right? It's find the key and find the anchor, right? And then my question to follow up will be, after you, obviously, if you feel free to comment what I just said, but the anchor, does it sound super interesting? How can one find its own anchor? Because it sounds like the key, right? It sounds like you put the key on the anchor, and this is it, right? But you have to keep finding every day. This is what I'm understanding.
But that's why, to find your anchor, let's define the anchor, that's something that grounds you and stabilizes you in the present moment, right?
Exactly.
To just for the people also to define it really, like that's my definition of it. So because you need to stabilize your mind and stabilize, let's say, your body, your nervous system, right? Those are the two main important things. Because coming back to what you said, right? We're in sympathetic dominance, right? We're constantly fight, flight, freeze, constantly going like in resistance, and that's just our culture that creates like this, right? There's a lot of input. So most of us are, even I am sympathetic dominance most of the day, right? Where it should be, right? The natural state should be like that. Neutral is parasympathetic activation with spikes of sympathetic activation, right? We should be in a relaxed, let's say, neutral state, in a balanced state. And when we have to activate and go into, I don't know if it's a conversation, a training, or whatever we do, then we have spikes. But we live in completely sympathetic dominance, with sometimes, when we're lucky along the day, with some down times, right? That's already upside down, right?
Yeah.
So now it's like a seesaw with those two, right? Up, down, up, down. So when one is up, the other one is down. When one is up, the other one is down, right? It's a seesaw. So now you have to create habits, because you need to, it's almost like the seesaw is stuck, right? So you need to bring it back in. And that's about creating habits.
Yeah.
Right? When you train your body, a lot of people understand that. You train your body, right? When you want to get stronger, you lift weights. When you want to have more endurance, you do endurance training, biking, running, swimming, right? That's what you do. Everybody understands that. With the mental skills, it's the same thing, right? You need to have habits. You need to do exercises. That's what we do, mental skill training. Who, like in that case, in that exercise, for example, turn your little seesaw back to a more balanced state, right? Activating the parasympathetic nervous system. Right now, finding the anchor is exactly that, right? So what can anchor you, right? I'm a fan about everything what we have with us, right? It's the breath, right? The breath is always with you. Your body, your senses, yeah? Your sense of hearing can be so grounding. Go out, listen to the birds. 5 minutes. Super, super grounding. Or even when sometimes I'm in the gym and it's so loud, and instead of like trying to lower everything down, I immerse myself truly into, and I'm just like, it's almost like I am here, and then there's the vessel where all the sounds are going through, right?
Yeah.
So you take immediately the resistance away of it, because you're in resistance, right? When something is not the way you want it to, you're in resistance. When you're in resistance, good luck. The mind will be like always stronger than you, right? It will be starting making up stories how loud it is, and I don't want to be, and I'm stressed, and I'm tired, and I need to go home, right? I don't want to listen to the guys anymore, right? But then you really tune in with no judgment into it, right? So the sound is a very good anchor. Or in general, the senses, right? Then the breath, obviously, right? Because the breath is always with you. You're tuning mindfulness of breath, right? It doesn't have to be always conscious breathing, where we consciously influence our breathing patterns, although it's extremely good to shift that seesaw, right, to one side, because conscious breathing is so powerful. We know that all. And then feeling the body, right? So here you have 3 anchors: sounds, breath, and body, right? Feeling really the body. It is so simple, but it's true. Look, when you're overwhelmed, when you're in sympathetic dominance, when you're stressed, you tune into your feet, you feel your hands, you feel your body, right? There is like your attention has to steady. There's my dog coming. She needs to be part of the. I told you she will be part of the podcast. Miss Amy Winehouse. So when you tune into your body, like it will ground you, right? Not instantly, but that's a habit, right? You're creating those habits, right? Eating, mindful eating. How many times? You have 15 minutes to eat. So now you can be completely unconscious, or you can actually narrow down your attention on your food and really taste your food and be really with it. Now, very simple, but very effective. So now, in more stressful, like that works also on the mat. Here's the second talk coming. So Snowy, so it's not a podcast. They use to me when I'm talking, even to my clients, sometimes they come out here. Okay.
She's like, keep talking.
Yes, exactly. No, not now. Right. So, but that works also on the mat. Like, let's say, or in a stressful situation. That's what I'm teaching my guys. Like when you need to slow down time in certain when you're in a stressful situation, you need to slow down time, to slice time a little bit different. And that is when you really slow down or steady your attention on 1, 2, 3 focus points. Right? Everything slows down. Let's say in sparring, in our sport, is like this: when you're overwhelmed by sparring because he's faster, more dynamic, he's more aggressive, he's just a better fighter, right? You can or engage in that chaos, and there will be a lot of chaos on the level of the mind, the nervous system, and the body, right? You lose your technique, you lose your timing, your reaction time is off, right? Because you're in sympathetic dominance and so much that you're actually not able to control anything anymore. You slow down, right, to those focal points. So look, right? I always tell them, look, slow down your eyes and look for the openings, right? Or look focus just on the defense. Right, not everything at once. Just narrow down. That's also an anchor, right? So that anchor, you train it like everything you train, right? All mental skills you train first on the mat. First on the on your meditation cushion or somewhere you sit down, you lie down, you train it, but then you bring it on the mat. And off the mat, you bring it into the fight or onto the field, right? That's for the special operation forces guys like this. For the MMA fighters, the same thing. So. It's simple, but it's not, and as you know, right, the simple things are the most powerful in life.
Yeah, and it's not to look for some, how you say that, you looking for some, brain hacks, or you're looking for, anything that would magically tap into your mind and your brain, and I get it, and I know it's mainly marketing, right? And calling things, how to hack your mind in 5 steps and everything, right? But the things that you managed to come up with, they're simple and free. When you think about it, right? Your mental health can be managed for free. It doesn't mean that you have to spend so much money and invest so much of your time, right? It's all free, and it's using the most natural tools that we have, right? That we all have.
Yeah.
If you're fully 100% healthy.
I'm a big fan on like as I think actually, I don't know if Andrew Huberman didn't came up with this, like real-time tools. I don't know if he came up with this, but someone came up with this, right? Real-time tools. And that's exactly it. Tools and techniques where you can use in real time. And speaking about the anchor, those are the tools that you can, for every coach, for every athlete there, for everybody also outside, of course, the sport, they're there. And I work a lot with them. Same like observation of the mind. You can do it once you learn those techniques, right? Once you learn to identify what's going on in your mind, and then to step back of it and getting more into meta awareness. Those are simple practices. We don't fail in not because the practices are so hard. We fail because the lack of belief that this can really actually do something.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, you know what I find funny? That a lot of people in training, they say, oh yeah, I will come train. I mean, I don't train amateurs anymore, but I hear that on the mat all the time. So I will come train with you guys in 4 weeks. And I'm like, so why are you not starting, I don't know, on Monday? I have to lose weight before I start training. And I'm like, wow. And you know how many people say that? It's so illogical, right? But I have still to get into a certain state and a certain kind of feeling, which is subjectively, to start something. And it's with the mental training, it's the same thing. People, they think they need to get first into a certain mindset or a certain state to start training their minds. And it's just not. No, you need to start now. Now, exactly. You're off the podcast here, you start now. You sit down and you tune 5 minutes into your breath, right? You start learning about, you order the books, start listening to the podcast, right? You need to start now because we block ourselves with that. Like we always wait for the moment, the right moment. There's never a right moment for anything, really.
Perfect timing.
Yeah, there's no perfect
that doesn't
timing.
exist.
Yeah, you create, right? That's why in that sense we are the creators. Same like what I said about find your people. They will not find you when you sit at home, right? You need to talk to people, right? Create what you want, right? You want more knowledge, find the people with knowledge, right? You want to do something, find the people, connect with them, learn from the best, and start doing. I'm a big doer. I mean, obviously, I'm in such an active sport, right? I'm doing. I like talking about philosophy. I like reading philosophy. But at the end, right, it's like you have to bring it from theory into practice and do it now.
Yeah, and let's be honest. It's also because as we said before, we are the stories that we tell ourselves. Yeah. So we can also create the illusion of doing and of executing. Let's say this episode, right? You know, we're getting close to an hour and a half, right? And if you think that this is executing, well, it's false, right? It's not. It's listening, gathering the ideas, but then you have to go out and do, right? Yeah. But we're great at telling ourselves stories that make us feel better about ourselves.
Yes.
And on the psychological basis, there are studies that show that, right? That people feel better about themselves when they think of helping someone. So if you see a homeless person on the street and you think of, let's say, the idea of buying them food at the grocery store, but you don't do it, you can still access the part of the brain that gives you pleasure.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because you think of it, wow, what a great person I am. I even thought of it, right?
It's still better than not thinking, but still worse than not doing, right?
Exactly, right?
So in the middle, it's not too bad.
So at the end of the day, listening podcast is better than not, right? But then the question is, what you do is more important, right? Because we can give you the best knowledge that we possibly can, but it's worthless in your life if you don't do anything with it, right? So it's also very risky to fall into that illusion of telling yourself a story. Oh, okay, I listened to a podcast. I did the work, right?
Yeah, and intellectualization, right? Compensation mechanism, right? Can be good and bad, but right?
Exactly.
That's exactly it. You think things through, you analyze it through so many times, right? But you're not doing things. I was talking lately in one of my Instagram videos. Amy's tired of my talking, right? It's behavioral activation.
Yes.
You need to engage in certain practices to change our states. I don't know who said that, but mood follows behavior, right? That's just how it is. Mood follows behavior. If you want to change your states, you need to behave into a new state of being. That's just how it is, right? You cannot talk yourself into a new state of being. Very rarely, of course. Internal talk, very important, right? Affirmations, very important. Mantras. What is that much of our work, what we're doing, right? Most of it is behavioral activation, right? Building habits, engaging in practices, because when you engage in a practice every day, it will eventually change you. You will, after a while, it's part of your character, right? It's getting into an automatic habit. It's turning into your character, and then it's part of your identity, right?
Yeah.
That's how we learn. But we look how it is that people still think like, I'm just born like this. How many times I hear that? I'm just like this. I'm just born like this. I was always like this. I'm like, how old are you? 35, 40, 45? There's still a half life to go. My mom, best example about this. My mom changed so much. She's turning on October 4th, 67. I hope I'm not wrong now. 67. She trains. She started training. She never trained, right? She started training. She engages in, she does her mental practices. She has a garden. She's very active. Her mind is unbelievable. And she was not always like this. Mm-hmm. She had time when she ran a very big company. She was very stressed. She was completely fixated, just a company. There was no world around. And she made incredible changes. And she said to me, like when she started engaging in those mindfulness practices and training, she said, everything changed. She as her whole character changed in the last 5 years. And that's a person 67 years old. I'm impressed. I'm so impressed. Every time when she trains and she shows me always exercises, should I do this or should I do that? I'm like, Mom, they're all good. And for me, like, this is the most important thing is that you move. She said, well, I like this one more. I'm like, yeah, do what you like, what makes you feel good.
Yeah.
And she did a transformation, and that's because she changed her behaviors. Okay. But she literally got up this one day because she actually, when I was with Jan at the UFC fight, she broke her ankle. She fell on the chair, she broke her ankle, and she said she realized how not fit she is. She couldn't stand on one leg, right? Yeah. I mean, she was like, oh my goodness. And then she said, never again. She changed the behaviors the next week, right? She started the physical therapy. She started training, then weeks later, and she's a different person. It's amazing. Behavioral activation.
Congratulations to your mom. That's first things first. Yeah. You have to tell her how proud you are.
Yeah, no,
because it sounds like you're very proud.
Yeah.
So but it's a great example, right? Of how as you said, the behavior will change the rest, right? But the rest is connected with the behavior, like, so it's always the same. Like, we can say, okay, develop a habit that will change, the mind will change the body, right? But it is the body, right? So exactly. If you change the mind, you change everything, right? So that's where we start. If you start moving, right, let's say with the motivation, like, you don't have to have motivation to start, right? But when you start, things will change, right? Like, things will happen for you. So it's great to put it in the perspective and just test it out, experience it, right? Because it always, when I said that we're great at telling ourselves good stories about ourselves to feel better, it's not just to people who listen to us, but it's also you and I, right? Mm-hmm. Because we're engaging in the deep conversation about a very important topic, right? But it's also our responsibility to then show up and walk the talk. Right?
Yeah, no,
so
absolutely.
It's not like we're very, crystal clear on that and perfect. No, we once we hit turn off and we say goodbye, we have to do all those things, right? To show up. So, and it's never difficult, and it's never easy. It's always difficult.
And I definitely, I can tell you that is, I think, one of the things people respect a lot in me, that I show up as the real me, and that I deliver, right? Even this is just how I am, right? You wake me up in the middle of the night, I do exactly what I teach, right? What I preach. I back it up. And I think that is something people feel that. People feel if you're authentic or inauthentic. And it is hard, right? Because the more self-sabotaging part in you, the hurt part in you, the traumatized little Daria, right? Which we all have. Hopefully not the little Daria, your own little one, right? But the little terrorist inside you, right? It's constantly going for you, like, and constantly attacking you. That's normal. I have that too, right? But you work it out, and it's that's the path of transcendence, part to self-actualization. In martial artists, that's what it is, right? As a martial artist, the path of a martial artist is a path to self-actualization, right? Transcending into the best version of yourself, right? Which means a lot of uncovering, just letting go things that got inflicted on you, or you took on over your lifetime, right? So it's a lot of stripping off things, right? But that's I think that's why we're here in life. If they're like, that's of course subjectively, but why are we here in the world? To exactly this, to experience, right? To learn, to kind of self-actualize. Yeah. What else would we be here for? I don't know any. I'm saying it's subjectively, but I feel no other reason why we should be here than fully immersing ourselves into this experience and learning. Like every day you can learn something else. And this is for me. I don't know how people can be bored. I don't understand this. I know brains are different. Of course, as a psychologist, I know how they could be. But me, as little Daria, the soul, I'm like, no way. Like I have always the list of books or practices or some other trainings or some mountains. Once I went into the Polish Tatras, now I have all the mountains still to climb, right? Because actually Jan Bohowicz, he was the first one in the camp who took me. It was my first big mountains I climbed in the Tatras, and it was really, really wow. I cried on the top when I saw it was powerful.
Mystical.
But so many things to do, so many things to
still discover.
Yeah, to discover. And this curiosity, right? That we lose that because life gets so hard, and it gets so serious. Like we get so serious. You know what is the first moment when I know before I even feel the stress in my body? Maybe that a little bit tension in the body, but when you fight and when you roll around with the guys, you always have tension. So I don't always can tell if it's from the training because they killed me again, or is it really the mental tension? But you know what? I lose my sense of humor instantly.
Okay.
I get serious. I don't find things funny, and humor definitely a marker of well-being, right? If you think. Yeah. You get all tense and serious, and you start with this comes also you start taking things personally. You lose the distance because humor, right, is a distance also to things.
Of course,
it's such a beautiful way to go through life with curiosity, humor, and joy. So when I get serious, I wake up in the morning and I can see it even in my face. I'm serious. I walk a little bit serious. And that's one of the first signs for, I have to go into my practices. I have to just take 15-20 minutes, a little bit of calming down, a little bit yoga nidra, body scan, whatever that is, right? Whatever mindfulness practices I do. Ice bath. I really, really like the ice bath for the reset. Easier in the summer than in the winter, right? Damn it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Now it's even the water in I also practiced the ice bath and cold showering for 5-6 years. So even before the morsowanie was
yes.
How do you say now it's more like not like a fashion, but people like modne, right? It's like people.
It's part of the culture, right? In Poland.
Yeah, people gather together and create really those little tribes of Moors, and they go into the water and everything. But even the water right now, when you put it on the maximum cold, it's not that cold as in December or January.
Yes.
Like it's normal. Like the water in the pipes, it's not that cold yet, right? Yes. But it's a very grounding experience, right?
Yeah.
And it's also, if you do it in the morning, let's say, it's like the first stressful thing that you do, right? And it's controlled. You agree on it.
Yes.
So you've got something quite dangerous, right? Quote unquote dangerous in the morning. So what more stressful can happen during the day, right?
But you just said something really super valuable, right? Controlled stress.
Yeah.
That's what everybody who's in our around our topic says that too, right? All the top level guys. Controlled stress, right? Bringing you under controlled stress. Now there can be ice bath, there can be a training, there can be even really, really strong breathing exercises, right? Because that's a lot of stress. And it's a lot of active work to this. So it's not always comfortable, or breath holds. Some of course, special forces, right? They do the underwater breath holds and so on, which I've done with them too. I almost choked for the first time and I panicked because I have not the best relationship with deep water. because my mom said when I was a young kid, I drowned almost.
Okay.
So I just remember really, but I don't like deep water and I don't like being underwater. And so for the first time when I did it, I panicked. And they were laughing. They're like, ha, mental performance coach. I'm like, okay, I'm coming back.
And I'll show you.
I came back. So I did. But, again, treating things with humor, right? But controlled stress. So but it means also sometimes, this is one thing we also don't, engaging in uncomfortable conversations, right? That's why I like sometimes, not too much, but sometimes I like to talk to people who have a completely different mindset about things. Yeah. It triggers me, believe me, it triggers me. When I came to Poland at the beginning, a lot of people triggered me because they were saying, oh, she's about rainbows and unicorns and whatever. She's always talking about consciousness. Right? That's how they perceived it. And they realized actually, oh, wow, she actually knows something about MMA. And then the world is small and we have a lot of Polish fighters who train in the States. And the guys were like, that she actually is really respected there. And so they realized it. But it triggered me, right? That people didn't take me serious, shouldn't be, and it was not always. But when I was in bad mood, it triggered me, and then so controlled. I engaged into some talks, even on Instagram, right? Sometimes when people commented some, for me, stupid things, like I engage, but again, controlled, right?
Yeah.
And it's on the level of the mind and the level of the nervous system, body, right? Controlled stress. So that's how you build mental and physical resilience, right?
True.
Resistance training, right? Mental and physical resistance training. But again, like for the really deep topics, you have to be careful.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Especially there are a couple of those in Poland that you can, get a little risky when you get into.
Yeah, I heard about that. But then, even that, like, for example, I work with some fighters at the FAME, the freak fight organizations, which the influencers. And when you are there, doesn't matter if you're a fighter or if you're a coach, whatever position you have there, people take, they take a look on you, right? And they try to trigger you.
Mm-hmm.
But this is one thing, like if you don't want to be triggered, you won't, right?
Exactly.
Whatever they say, whatever at the end, it doesn't matter, right? This is another thing that you have to remember. And being an athlete, right? We're in sports. You're always on the performing act, right?
Yeah.
You're on the stage constantly, and you're on stage to be judged, right? In a way, like at least, you're in competition to people, right? So there will always like a winner and someone who loses, right? There will be always someone who performed better and worse, right? So you're constantly on, like in this judgmental field. But you, again, coming also back to what we talked at the beginning of, this is what you do and this is who you are. Very, very different things. And you have to actively really engage in practices to remember that, right? This is right to disidentify a little bit with this. But I think, look, all the really inspiring people I'm dealing with and working with, or my mentors, they're usually, you can see that they're almost like, it feels like almost they're untouchable. We're not. None of us is untouchable. But they're in this neutral awareness. They just don't give a shit anymore about things they don't really want to give a shit about. And that's a state we all can get to. Right? I'm still on my way. I'm still not there yet.
Still climbing.
But most of the people who are really top level in what they're doing have kind of this mindset, right? They're very focused on their goals.
Yes.
And they don't pay attention to things that are not part of the path or that they're not important for them.
And they don't have to scream and shout to everyone about that, right? It speaks for itself, right? But I think the first step is wanting to not give a shit, right? Wanting to be neutral, wanting to be in that state, because it doesn't happen, when you say, "Oh, it comes with age," and then yes or no, right? It might or might not, right?
Yeah.
But you really truly have to want to do it over the years of you doing what you do.
That's such an interesting thing what you said, though. A really good one, because look what we do. we get addicted, as you know, right, in our body physiology and in our mind to drama, right? When you grow up with a lot of drama, right, our brains and minds and bodies also get addicted to drama.
Yeah.
And that we choose drama over calm because drama is the only state we know, right? And that's exactly what happens, right? That's why people do not like to change the states, don't like to change the perspective on certain things, right? They like to be in resistance, be in constant war, because that's all they do. They feel alive with that. And that is something really worth mentioning. Like, for example, in my sport, in MMA, right? That's like the little bit more old school, let's say, mindset is that fighting is all about chaotic aggression, right? That's what they think. I talk a lot about warrior spirit, right?
Yes.
And warrior spirit has zero to do with chaotic aggression. It's all about focused aggression. It's about concentration, determination, right? What is your deep goals? Your right? It has to come, like, as I always say, power comes from peace, right?
Yeah.
That true inner strength comes from having certain things worked out. And we engage, we feel, because we kind of feel our ego, right? It's our ego domination, right? Where there's so much drama, right? I'm important. When there's so much drama, I have something, right, to engage with. And we subconsciously seek those moments. And to get out of this pattern, look, in relationships, let's say in relationships it comes out the most. It's very hard to break that pattern. Of people seek drama. We like on the TV drama, on Instagram drama, everywhere drama, right? Right. So
that's what sells on social media right now. Like, it's interesting, it's sexy.
Yes.
Someone will pay for that.
Yes.
Like, it gets you the most attention.
Yes, exactly. And that's something you need to be aware of, and that's something it's absolutely worth looking to in our lives, right?
Yeah, and especially, see, I have this theory that I truly believe in, and I know how difficult it is in my life. So I know how difficult it is to manage in my life. So I can only imagine how difficult it is when you just say it, right, and live with it, deal with it. About change, because you said how difficult is the part of uncovering all the layers of our, we have to call the weaknesses, right, or our, maybe the soft spots, right? The more layers you uncover, the
less accepted parts of us, right?
Exactly, yeah. The parts maybe that you never wanted to tap into, they start to come out. But that's the only way to change, because change is when we make a decision and we say, I want to make a change in my life, just like your mom did, for example, right? So you decide to make a change. And look, even the word in English, to decide, connects with homicide and with suicide. It's all family, right? The sida, side, right? And sida in Latin is the murder, right? So homicide, right? Suicide, okay, we know exactly where the murder comes from. Okay, but when you decide to change, you decide to murder your old you, your old ideas, your old philosophies, right?
Yeah.
And you have to uncover all those layers to be stripped of everything that you believed in thus far.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, it has to do with letting go also. Look, that's exactly letting go, right? Letting go is so hard. We rather speaking about the philosopher you quoted, right? Uncertainty, right?
Yeah.
We fear uncertainty more than the pain actually we have. We choose to stay in certain situations that are very painful, very stressful, because that's all we know. Like, we seek drama. If someone is all they know is drama and stress and being constantly in sympathetic dominance, right? Constantly out of control with your attention. This is what you keep seeking, right? And you will recreate exactly those situations that will bring you physiologically, mentally, also in your life into exactly this. You will seek those situations, right? Because that's familiarity, right? We seek this, the familiar over the unfamiliar. Uncertainty is so scary for us because we don't know what comes. But then once you shift the perspective, uncertainty is amazing because it's like, it's exactly what life is, right? That's the crux of life. It's uncertain. It's in constant change. You don't know, right? And that's the mindset shift. Knowing, okay, I'm choosing the uncertain. I don't know if I get punched in the face or I break my leg, or maybe I'll be the most happiest person in the world. You just don't know. And that was, believe me, if I have a lot of flaws, that was one mindset that helped me to connect to so many amazing people in the world, to go out there and learn from the best.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I don't know if they will open the door or not. I will not know if I learned something. I would not even know where I will sleep, but I go there and I rent something and I stay and I go to the gym and I just train with them. Right? I just showed up, and that's 15, 18 years ago, where it was not so common than now for the fighters to travel. And that's it, right? That's like stepping into the unknown is so important in our life every day, basically. Because look, everything you do, everything, you know your thoughts, because it's constantly, we're thinking the same thing in the same day, repetitive thoughts, right? Your thoughts, like, so why not engaging in some more new thoughts, right? New perspectives. I know MMA, so maybe I should do, I don't know, rock climbing, right? Yeah. Why not? I should do, right? I read all philosophy books. Maybe I should start reading something about the universe or engineering, right? Whatever that is, right? It's like just it's training, right? To stepping into the unknown constantly, because on the other side, very, very often are amazing things, right? And along the way, you fall, like I said, you get punched, you get hurt emotionally, but that's it. That's mental physical resilience, right? That's the knowing, like that's part of the path. But then at the end, there might be something really, really, really amazing.
That's where the real joy, happiness, and satisfaction, which I would say it's not. I'd say happiness, right? As in Polish we would say szczęście, right? That's the difference between joy, radość, right? And happiness is you look for the joy in everyday things, but the happiness is your destination, right? The joy is the process. Like you'll never get fully happy, but the more joy you get from the everyday, the closer you get to the unknown happiness, the full happiness. Because everyone will always want to be full happiness, whatever that means, right? But still, like being the process is joy for me. And happiness is the destination.
Interesting.
You don't have to focus so much on getting there, but it's always, this comes from that.
Or maybe, I will have to think about this. But also maybe, that, joy and happiness, I rather would tend to joy than to happiness, but it's for the sake of the definition of the word, right? But just really accepting that, just like nobody, my grandmother said that, actually it's funny that I quote her, but nobody told you that life is happiness, joy, and about unicorns and rainbows. Nobody told us that. We don't know why we are here, right? We can make it as joyful as it is, but then also understanding, because we feel entitled. We feel entitled to feel good, right? I should feel good because I'm such a special person, right? This is narcissistic bullshit we have in us, right? We feel entitled that, because also, especially because we think that the 1% people show from their life on social media as their whole life, right? And so it's getting harder. So we feel like it shouldn't be like this. Why is everybody happy, just not me, right? So we feel more and more and more entitled, right? And we're in such resistance. But life is equally bad, like equally good, like again, right? Staying anchored, staying grounded, right? Not getting swept away by everything, every feeling you have, every thought you have, right? There's a day like where an hour is great and then 5 hours are shit, right? That's just how it is.
Exactly.
And there's some great, again, like some great thoughts I said that before, and then there are some very stupid thoughts you have, right? Just being like, right, feeling less entitled, feeling less important also, because it's the ego attachment. Right? Our ego takes us on and says, wait, I should be treated like this. I should be like this. The moment it's not about, because of course you expect certain things, right? And you have to make your place in the world, and you have to take your place. Like I had to take a place as a coach in MMA, and with elbows, right? I have to make my right, and I did it, and I had to of course fight a little bit and put resistance, but like being flexible, that you cannot expect from the world to give you anything, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that is this entitlement is really, really bad, right?
Yeah.
Because it makes us tense. It brings us in resistance. We start fighting, and we start seeing the world as an enemy, right? Which is, as we know, very, very bad for our mental health and well-being, right? So just the acceptance of like, yeah, it's good, it's bad, it's neutral. That's just how it is. And I'm me, and I'm grounded. I'm fully anchored in myself and stable mentally, physically, and I just go on, right? Time
As you said,
goes on, you go on.
As you said, every moment, every day is neutral. It's what you make of it, right? So make it joyful, and it's see what happens, right? Maybe you will be, maybe you will not, right? But you will still
totally. But then also, you know what? Sometimes you just gotta be angry and frustrated. Yeah. You want to cry, you cry. That's exactly right how I treat myself, because I'm a very emotional person. So maybe now I don't cry any much, not so much anymore. But in the past, like 10, 12 years ago, I cried a lot. And I wish someone would have told me, you want to cry, you cry, right? Yeah. My mom and me were very close, right? And when she sees I'm in a very bad mood, she's like, you know what? I give you an hour. Just be moody for an hour. And I was like, yeah, you're right. I'm going for a walk and I'm moody. And I'm not trying to be joyful. Yeah, I'm trying to ground myself. So I look at the trees because I love nature. I try to engage with my dogs. But there's moments where you just can't get out of the state. And as we know, right, physical laws of the universe, you stop resisting. You'll be like, okay, I'm angry. The moment you stop resisting things, right, it just loses the grip, loses the power, right? Because by resisting, but fighting with it, by wanting it any other than it is, you just really hold on to it, right?
Yeah.
You let go, you go into this neutral state, like at least not maybe joyful, but at least try to get into it is what it is, right? It is also a powerful state, right? Just allow yourself, you just have to set boundaries. So it's an hour, 2, or maybe a day. And then next day you wake up, you're back to your game plan, right? That's it. Back on the goal, back oriented on what you want to do.
Even the saying, it is what it is, makes you grounded, right?
Yeah.
Because it keeps you in the present. It puts you in the present times, right? Because it's true. It is what it is right now. And you can't change it unless you want to, right? And then maybe think of a way how you want to do it, or if you really need to change it, right? Because you can maybe still act, still do with what you have right now, right? So it's never so sure that you have to, right, come up with a solution, right, to whatever you're doing right now. Let's make that the end of the first episode, right? Because for those who don't know, we're recording 2 episodes, and today is mainly about mental health and managing all the things in our life. And I think all different ideas that came up in this episode will be very interesting. And for this month, I have this little like a 3-question, right? A 3-question, like a very short answer question series that I'll make in every single episode this month, right? So I would encourage you and ask you to try to answer those 3 last questions in this episode, right? With 1, maximum 2 sentences. The best would be 1 or 2 words, which is so difficult, but it's like the first things. I know it's the worst, right? Because we both can talk, but let's try, okay? Let's try to have that feeling of what it is, right? So when you hear mental health, you think what?
Mental and physical resilience.
Perfect. 1 positive thing that you do to manage your mental health.
Mindfulness.
And 1 negative thing that affects mental health in general, but speak of yourself.
The lack of skills to deal with our mind.
Beautiful. It wasn't so hard.
I had to focus though.
Yeah, I know. You got really grounded. I could see.
Exactly.
Listen, so thank you for that part. Thank you for the first episode. Thank you for our conversation. That almost 2 hours just went by. I don't know where they came from, but I think it's from engaging. It's from being fully present, and this is what I'm grateful for, and I'm grateful for our conversation. And I also want to thank you for what you do for the environment, for the world, and for your fighters, for yourself also because when you manage your mental health well, then you're a better person for everyone else. And we need more people like you. And I'm saying we as Amon, maybe the whole planet, right? Like I'm representing the planet right now. So
we all
saying
do.
as,
We all do.
yeah, exactly. So I'm saying we need, but also I need, right?
Yeah.
More people like yourself. So thank you for doing what you're doing, because it's super important. And the second part of our conversation will be focused mainly on mental health in men. That's why we didn't get into the fighters, the names, the training that Daria has with her clients, because that's going to be mainly talked about in the second episode that we're going to record. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. And thank you so much for having me on, for giving me 2 hours of talking about the things I'm so interested and passionate about. I always appreciate that, right? Because people like you give people like me a platform to speak, to spread what we're passionate about, what we love, what we believe in. And thank you for everybody who listened 2 hours to our talk. And also, oh my God, guys, thank you that finally I could do a podcast in English again, like in Poland, right? Because of course, all the Polish podcasts want me to speak in Polish. So dziękuję bardzo. I appreciate that. I will do some Polish podcasts too.
Of course.
It's so much easier and so much more natural for me. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
I could tell. I could feel it. So thank you so much, too. And we'll hear each other soon.
Yes, that's it.